Good morning, good afternoon, good evening, wherever you are in the world. It's Dr. Jan Fortman with Relationship Matters TV. I hope everyone is having a beautifully blessed morning, afternoon, or evening. I know I am. I'm here in Chicago, and you know what? The temperature is 38 degrees. And guess what? We're happy about that. Because it could be snowing. It could be like in the 20s or in the teens or below zero. So we are very happy that it's 38, even though it's a little cloudy. But we haven't had that much of a winter. I think we've had maybe a couple of days of snow and a couple of days of really, really cold weather. But we haven't really had that bad of a winter. And I'm not complaining. In one sense, I am because this is relationship matters, and I always say that there are all kinds of relationships, but I have a, what can I say, negative relationship with bugs. And if we don't have a hard freeze for at least 4 or 5 days, then that means that when spring and summer comes, it's bees and it's bugs galore. So I really, to my Midwest friends, I still want a hard freeze. But anyway, that's that. So guess what? We have a guest that you all are probably familiar with because he was on the show last week. And I told you, uh, Mr. Rufus Thomas got all kinds of jobs. I mean, he's an author, he's a motivational speaker, he's a minister. And so last week we talked about the book that he and his daughter wrote together. But this week we are focusing on him. So I am going to bring him in right now. He is such a pleasure to have on the show. And you know what? I want you to listen to his voice. Hold on.
Hi, Jan.
Hello.
How are you?
I am great. How are you?
Good, good. You know what you did? You did what a lot of my friends do. You said Rufus Thomas.
You know,
A lot of my friends do.
Rufus Stephens.
Yeah, well, we all know who Rufus Thomas is.
Right. You know what? Oh my God. And it's so funny that you said that because when I was putting it in on StreamYard and Facebook
Mhm.
and I was reading it over again, I had Rufus Stephens at the top, but then in the paragraphs, I'm like, what? Rufus Thomas. It was just automatic. Let me
No harm, no foul.
This is Rufus Stephens, author, motivational speaker, inspirational speaker, and guess what else? He's a voiceover talent. So I want to know how to do that. But anyway,
Right.
Rufus,
Yes, ma'am.
see, last time we really focused on you and your daughter and more so on your daughter.
That's
So,
correct.
but tonight, tell us about you. You know what I want to know? What did you do before you became a motivational speaker?
Well, I always heard a different drummer than my siblings. There are five of us, and three of the five are in education. The other one's more technically oriented. He worked for Bell South. But I was always in sales. I love the people interface. I love the idea of value exchange. I give you a product, you give me money. That's a win-win situation. And so I spent my career before I got into public speaking was as a sales executive for food service companies. And I
Oh,
was all over the country, and I would speak a lot. I would be called to speak on whether it was board meetings in Chicago or whatever else. And then a little bit later on, I went into the ministry in '94, and necessarily had to speak. And people used to always tell me that, oh, I love your voice, I love your voice. Well, that's nice to have that to speak, but you ought to have more content. It ought to be more about content than voice value. And so I was blessed to work on the content and get to the point where I had both. And I decided I wanted to be a public speaker. And then so I wrote a letter to then Zig Ziglar, you know, the renowned motivational and just good guy, Zig Ziglar. And I said, Zig, I want to speak. And he lived in Texas at the time. And he wrote me a 2-page letter back. I have it framed here in my office. And he told me some things to do, and I did them. I joined. He said, join Toastmasters. I joined Toastmasters, and I started competing, and I started winning. I won all of Chicago one year out of 127 clubs. And then I just got the bug, and it felt good.
What year was that? Rufus, what?
I'm sorry? Say again?
Where was that?
But yeah, that was, I want to say,
in Toastmasters.
It was a couple of years, but the year I won, it had to have been, I don't have my trophy up here, but I want to say about 94, 95, something like that. Yeah. And it was a lot of fun. And then I realized I love coming into a room, taking an audience that doesn't know me from a man in the moon, and take them from Rufus Who to Rufus We Love You. And all of that depends on my ability to bring content, impact, and connection with the audience. And that takes, as Les Brown is my hero. And Les used to say, I didn't just run up here. You know, I worked on this thing. And so I answered a short question by taking you a long ride home, but that's how I got here. That's what I was doing before I started speaking. I was in
and so you were in the ministry.
Mm-hmm.
So did you pastor a church?
I was an associate pastor of a.
You pastored a church?
I was associate pastor of a church out in Joliet, and then became assistant pastor just before we left and moved to North Carolina. And since that time, I've been associate. I have not, singularly pastored. Didn't feel like I was called to pastor. Felt like I was helped to be help for the one who was called to pastor. I've always felt that.
Wow. So that's I ask you about Toastmasters because I'm also a Toastmaster. Mm-hmm. And I've been a Toastmaster now I've been in Toastmasters now for over 20 years. And so that's why I ask you, when did you win? You probably were in the contest, beat me out.
I'm now you're gonna make me go back. I'll go back and check. I know where my trophies are. I'll go back and check and see what year that was. But it was awesome.
Okay. Yeah. Are you M?
I'm sorry?
And that is, are you a distinguished Toastmaster? Are you a DTM?
No. When I left Illinois, and I just stopped doing anything at all with Toastmasters. I was an ATM when I left, and they changed those designations now. But I was calling. I never made it to DTM, and I don't want to put her down on it, but in that time period, my wife passed away, and it took the life out of me for a while. And so I just, now I'm back in Toastmasters.
I'm sorry.
In Jackson. Well, thank you. I'm back in Jacksonville, and I got back in Toastmasters. Back in North Carolina we were there 5 years before coming here. We've been here year and a half, and very active in Toastmasters here and there. Toastmasters is, for anybody that doesn't know anything about it, is the best deal in town. If you're looking to gain confidence and not break the bank and meet some awesome people, it's a wonderful organization.
Yes, it is. Yes. So you know, I am a DTM.
Kudos to you.
I am a distinguished Toastmaster.
That's awesome. That is awesome. Yeah. Yeah, you didn't just run up there either. You had to work to get there.
Yeah. So tell me, in motivational speaking, do you?
You froze there, Jan. I didn't hear you.
Could you hear me?
I could not.
In your can you hear me now?
Yes.
Can you hear me now?
Yes. Yes. Yes.
When you were in your motivational speaking, what do you speak on?
Well, currently my keynote is it's a message called "Now What," and it challenges the listener to embrace change, to appreciate their personal resilience, and to live life intentionally. And often I will, if I'm speaking for your organization and your organization has whatever it is, the objective you want met in the message, I will customize the message to speak to that issue. And then every now and then somebody would want me to craft a message just for them. And I do that as well.
So have you spoken all over the world or all over?
Not the world, over the country, you know, and I'd say from San Diego to Naples and to Delaware, you know, is pretty much where I've been concentrating here. And a lot of this happened before COVID, so we're getting revved all up again, and done some virtual speaking as well.
How do people maintain resiliency?
Well, you know, I always say that we are. I can hear you. Yeah, we are always better than the situations that confront us. I don't think we realize just how strong we are and how resilient we are. And I'm doing my message, I have a PowerPoint as I'm talking, and I have a slide with a picture of Tyler Perry. And in the picture are two road signs. One is to Sylvan Road and the other is to Tyler Perry Studios. Well, the one to Sylvan Road is the one that will take you down to the area where he used to live in his car. And the other sign tells you where he is now. And my point was that he recognized when he was on Sylvan Road that he was better than the Sylvan Road experience. And because he held on to that notion, he now drives to Tyler Perry Studios. And I just tell everybody, I used the loss of my wife and the loss of my mother all within 60 days and said, and yet I stand. We're always better in the situations that present themselves to it. And I tell you, guess what? Situations are not done. I'm convinced there's a truck called the stuff truck, and it drives all over the world and it drops off stuff at your house, and it's only for you to deal with. And you got to deal with it. But you're bigger than the stuff that they're leaving at your house.
I have a question. What is your audience?
You broke up. I didn't hear the question.
You got.
You're frozen and the sound is
Should I?
broken up.
What is? Can you hear me now?
Yes.
Question. What is your life that you are trying to, like we do with this?
Breaking up. I can't hear the question.
Okay. I'm going to put it in the chat.
Okay, that'll work.
Okay. Won't even check. Oh. Not sure what the issue is. I know StreamYard came in and said there was an error, but it wasn't our fault, my fault. But anyway, here's the question. Hopefully, there it is.
What is the audience like that I'm trying to reach? Varied. Classic example is that because I came out of school nutrition, I've spoken to school nutrition associations across the country, and yet I spoke to there's a company called SP Richards out of Atlanta, a $2 billion company that had its conference, its 25th year conference in San Diego, and I was one of the speakers there. And these were all business people who own their own office supply places and all. So the message resonates. I don't care what you do. I mean, you need to learn to embrace change. Change visits everybody. You need to understand that you're better than the circumstances, and you need to be more specific about how you're going to live your life. Live your life intentionally, on purpose, if you will. And so that covers anybody. I don't know of anybody who that doesn't cover.
Okay. So now, so many people don't know their purpose or their passion. Well, they might, and so I'm wondering, when you're doing your motivational speakers, how do you communicate to people how to find their purpose? Because I think once they find their purpose, then that's where the resiliency comes in.
Well, I think that it's funny you asked that question, because one of the portions of the speech deals with the fact of finding your why or your purpose. And I said, I found my why. And I give some clues, and then I'm not exhaustive, but some clues. What is that thing that inside of you, every time you think about it, it quickens your heart? You thought about, my wife is an awesome baker, and she's going to start a cake baking thing down here, and she's a rock star. That quickens her spirit. What is that thing inside of you that every time you think about it, it gives you a little bit of a buzz? That might be a passion clue. What is the thing that you do? And I know, Dr. Jan, folks, they do awesome stuff and they make it look so easy. I mean, they just walk into a situation, boom, it gets done. I had a friend that could walk into clutter, and when she walked out of it, it was nothing but pure order. Those are passion clues to me. You're playing around in the shower with bar of soap, and it's your microphone, and you're just messing around in the water, but you have an awesome voice. And you want to sing, but somebody tells you negative Nellies and negative Neds come in your life and tell you, no, that's for that kind of person. You ain't got that kind of voice. And I would say, listen to you talking to you. There's so many clues, and talk to people who are invested in you. Ask your friends, what is it about me that impacts you? I can't tell you how many people, and I don't mind saying this because I don't make throats, but I can't tell. I've been on PA systems, and everybody else. I remember being in a restaurant, being on a PA system. Somebody walked up. Oh my God, who was that? and blah, 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 blah. You have a great voice and blah, 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 blah. And okay, thank you. But I didn't make it, so there's no bragging rights here. But it told me that, hey, listen, you have something that people like to hear. We're at a sales meeting. I get up to speak, and the first thing people say, I love your voice. I could listen to you all day. Okay, Rufus, and I tell everybody, the light bulb went on. I spoke at my class reunion in Savannah, and we had a wonderful time. 300 folks and a standing ovation when I got done. And I tell people, it's like God said, I gave you a gift. I can't put it any closer than your throat. Now, it's up for you to decide whether you're going to use it. And that's when I opened my business and started speaking. So listen to your heart. Listen to the things that quicken your spirit when you think about it. And those are passion clues.
Okay. And so people were telling you how beautiful your voice was. Is that why you decided to get into voiceovers?
Oh yeah. I people and come to find out that a lot of the companies not looking for that midnight jazz DJ voice. They're looking for people who sound conversational, and it doesn't hurt to have some resonance. And so, yeah, that was one of the ones. And so I took a voiceover class for the better part of a year and had some coaching and that kind of thing, and then started looking for business. Highly competitive field, highly competitive, but worth the doing because it's a lot of fun. And so many things people can do. They can narrate books. They can do trailers for movies. They can do all sorts of things. I was found it interesting that we've all heard the Arby's commercial with Ving Rhames, and rich baritone bass voice. And I found out later on that he went to Juilliard. And we see him as the actor, the big muscular guy in Mission Impossible and everything else, but great voiceover guy. And of course, everybody knows Morgan Freeman, the man. And so some of my requests actually ask me to sound a little bit like Morgan for whatever it is they're going to do. Yeah. But that's more fun than anything else. I have a room in my house that I go and do voiceover stuff.
Okay. All right. And someone just said hello. Okay. So, but I got a question that came in here. Why do we tend to talk ourselves out of greatness?
Oh my God. You know what? Great question. Great question. You know what? We live so close to our own greatness. I believe we take it for granted. You've been living in that skin all your life, and people don't know you for the greatness you want to have. They can't see you someplace else. And I think you can't listen to them. One of the reasons that I think people talk themselves out is that they share their dreams. Bad idea. You got to be very careful about who you're sharing with. Everybody's not in your corner for a myriad of reasons. They don't want you to succeed because they don't want you to leave them. They don't want you to see because they've never seen you do anything great. And then they don't want you to succeed because they don't believe you can ever do. So you can't listen to them. They will talk you off of your plan. But you got to stay with it. Get somebody who feeds good stuff into you, and read good books and listen to people, motivational speakers and people who speak to you, and feed on that, because there are no vacuums. If you don't do what I just suggested you do, somebody else will have your time. They will get in your head. They will rent space in your head, and you will talk yourself out of that business that you said you were going to open. And by the way, you would be great at it. But it becomes if I woulda, coulda, shoulda if you listen to the negative Nellies.
So I want to ask this.
What's that?
In your voiceovers, so have I heard you?
Probably not. I wish I could say yes, because most of the stuff is stuff I've done stuff for authors as promotional stuff for their stuff, and for some school stuff. But you wouldn't have heard me on that. I hope the next time we talk, I can tell you yes, you have.
Okay, so let me go on a quick commercial.
Okay.
And while we're gone, I'm going to see if I can get this StreamYard together. It seems like they finally kind of got it together, hopefully. So,
Okay.
but let me go on a quick commercial. And I just still want to remind people about the book. Let me find it. If I can find it in here, which of course I can't. But anyway,
I've got one right here if you
uh,
want me to hold it up.
you know what? If you want to, if yeah, see if you
Yeah.
can. Not that one. No, not
Oh,
that one.
which one? Leave a mark?
Yeah, that's what I was looking for. Here it is.
Oh,
No, let me do it. No, no,
okay.
no. Let
Okay.
me do it. Let me do
Okay.
it.
Go
Let me
for
do
it.
it. Let me do it. Let me do it. Well, I'm back. Last week, I had to put my commercials in because last week we were talking so much about the book, Leave a Mark, that I didn't get a chance to put my commercials in. And so,
Oh,
sponsors are saying like, uh, Dr. Jan, okay. So now let's talk about this book. You're gonna show it. You can show it, but I
no, you got it. That's good. I like yours better.
got it. Life lessons from Miss. No,
Man,
wait, I do my finger the other way. There you go.
right.
Life lessons from Miss Hattie.
Miss Maddie.
Now, Miss Maddie. Oh God.
Yeah.
I my eyeballs. I guess I should put my glasses on, but I'm not. But anyway, who is Miss? Who is or was Miss Hattie?
Miss Maddie was my mother,
Maddie. Why am
and
I saying Hattie? Miss Maddie.
she, a most incredible woman. And it's kind of like what I just mentioned to one of your questioners. Sometimes you live so close to greatness, um, you have this forest for the trees kind of experience, and you don't appreciate how great they are. I had an incredible mother. She was a single parent of 5 kids, um, ranging in ages from 3 to 8 when she and my father separated. He was an alcoholic, and which made her a workaholic. And she was a teacher in South Georgia, and she taught all over Georgia. And they would call her Miss Maddie. And so that's where it came from. And it was rarely Miss Stevens. It was always Miss Maddie. And she taught us some when it came to material stuff. We didn't have a lot, but she would do as well as she can, along with my grandmother, who kind of kept the homestead, as my mother taught out of town. And she gave us what we needed. We didn't have as much as a lot of our friends who had 2 parents at home or had people with means, but we got what we needed. We got character stuff. We got the ability to work hard, the desire to dream, and in the end, she ends with 5 babies. They used to call Maddie's babies. She ends up with the former chair of the music department of UConn as her oldest child. The second one was a state congressman in Georgia. The third one was this consummate educational, my sister. And then my brother, who's a technician for Mom Bell, and then me, a preacher and businessman and a public speaker. So Miss Maddie did all right. And so what I did was I listed 8 lessons, 8 of the many lessons she's taught us. And I think anybody that listens to those or follow those would be in good stead.
So give us a couple of lessons that Miss Maddie gave.
One of the ones, and this speaks, this is lesson 7. Season your speech. My mother would never say something casually when she could say it with flavor. And so she would, if you'd ask, she says, neighbors would say, Maddie, how you doing? And she would never say, fine, thank you very much. That's way too casual. My mother would say something like, kicking not too high, fluttering still can't fly. And she would always color her speech. She loved words, and I think that's where I got it from. She loved words. Not to use big words, because the problem with using big words, nobody knows what you're talking about. But to use words efficiently, and so I think that's where I got it from. That was the one she taught us. The other one had to do with well, I want to give you the name of the lesson. Yeah, the one is the well, I'm going to give you 2 actually. One is laugh regularly. My mother didn't miss an opportunity to laugh. I can still hear her on Saturday morning. We might be still in the bed. She's on the porch talking to a neighbor across the way, and somebody has tickled her funny bone. And she didn't laugh easily. She laughed with her whole body. And she taught us to laugh. And I remember that, and I read it in the book, I remember that I was starting to get a bit of the laugh bug in me. That gene has been actualized when I was on a trip to Sylvania, Georgia, back to Mother to Teach during the week, and we were on a car full of teachers. I don't know what it is I said, but I remember they had to pull off the road. They were all laughing so hard, they had to pull off the road and get out of the car and lean on the car and laugh, collect themselves and get back in the car and drive on. And I don't know what I said that, but I got the idea. And then I would say stuff. My Connie, who you met last week, has the same kind of thing. I say stuff not trying to be funny, and people would start laughing. So and don't deny that. Everybody doesn't have a funny bone, and in fact, for those of you who consider speaking, if you don't have a funny bone, be careful trying to be funny. It falls flat. So she taught us to laugh. And then the other thing was taught us to care for people. She always would bring a student home to just hang out with her for the weekend. You know, she taught in the country. She would come back, bring that child for the weekend, go to church with us or something. And that child would consider our house a palace. And we laughed because, you know, it was a tiny house full of people. But so we all of us, and I look at my siblings, and all of us have a genuine heart for people. We can't see people in need and not want to somehow meet that need. And that comes from my mother and my grandmother. They're just people who loved people.
Wow.
So those are three of the lessons.
So tell me, what sayings do you have that you came up with full of flavor?
Oh, I think one of them I got from I gave to my oldest daughter when she was growing up and watching other people doing better than she was. And God just gave this to me. I didn't hear anybody else say it and regurgitate it. And it's this: it's not as important when you bloom as that you bloom. And I've said that, and I say that now in my keynotes. It's not as important when you bloom as that you bloom. Critically important. The other one was the one I just said. We are always better than the situation that comes before us. And I can't think of one right now. I love local speech, colloquial speech, people who have country sayings, you know. And when I get them, I hold on to them. One of them, I remember, they came from some folks from over in Beaufort, South Carolina. It was simply said, it was to remind people the value of work. It says, if a woodpecker wants sweet meat, it's got to have a pain in the head. And so you understand that you've got the woodpecker pecks. And so if he wants to get that firmness inside, he's got to work for it. That's just a colorful way of saying that. And people sometimes hold on to those better than just a straight statement of something you ought to do. So.
Yeah, well, you know what? In your next book that you author, then, you know what, put some of those sayings in them. Because sometimes, you know, I saw something on TikTok, and I wish I could remember all of them, but they were talking about those old colloquial sayings that our grandmothers used to say, you know, and you know, and young people, they've never heard them. You know what I mean?
That's a good idea.
Yeah. Okay. Just give me a little credit in the book.
Yes, ma'am. I always give credit. I never steal stuff and done it.
But the other day, somebody asked me, they said, "How you feeling? How you doing?" I said, "Oh, fat or middling."
Oh, yeah. Oh, yeah.
You know, so like somebody young, a millennial, would probably like, "What is fat or middling?"
But, you know, and one of the things I run after, I want to remain, I don't want to cut the cord on my local speech that I grew up with, but I also have to remain relevant to the kids today. I was reminded of this when my kids were younger and we were in a hurry to go somewhere. And I remember telling them, I said, "You guys, come on, get in the car. You guys moving like 33 and a third." And they looked at me like, "What?" You know, and they have no frame of reference. And you explained to him that there was a big old album that moved slower than the 45 that moved much faster. And, you know.
Yep. And I'll see you next week, if the Lord say so, and the creek don't rise.
Thank you.
It's just some of that just coming in my head.
I love rich speech like that. Those people, you know, they communicate it, and I'm you know, it's so important I love words. I'm a wordsmith, but I also love communicating. If I use
Yeah.
all my words and you look at me like a dog looks at a radio, then I have not communicated.
Well, see, that's one right there.
You know how animals do like
Like
this.
a dog looks at a radio. Wow. So in your motivational speaking, you put some of those colloquialisms in them, or
Oh, I
do you?
do. I do.
Oh, do you?
Yeah,
Okay.
that's it depends on the situation, who I'm talking to, because you got to read your audience and know
Yeah.
that who you're speaking. But
Yeah.
because it's so much a part of me, it's easy speech to me because it's colorful. But I also understand that everybody doesn't understand the reference point, so you may have to make another statement of explanation after that.
True that. True that. So here's another question. Oh, okay. What advice can you give us if we don't believe in ourselves to accomplish our goals?
You froze, Jan.
Did you get it?
Yeah, I got it. Yeah, I did. And you know what?
Okay.
Been there,
Okay.
done that. One thing I did recently, and not recent, about 2 years ago, I did it again 3 weeks ago. Get some help. Just ask somebody. I just went on Facebook and I said, if I have meant anything to you in your life, give me one word that describes it. I had 90 people come on with 60 different things that I did that was meaningful to them. Because again, we live too close. We're in these, what I call these meat suits, and we live too close to us. And we talk to ourselves. We hear ourselves talking to us all the time. When we wake up in the morning, we go to bed, during the day, and often we are saying negative stuff. And you got to get from that. So get a different perspective. Have somebody, people who are honest, you just go on Facebook and say, what do I mean to you? And start to reevaluate yourself. Again, look to your strengths, look to your passion clues, the kind of stuff that you do well. Don't try to do something somebody else does, fail, and then conclude that you don't have the goods. You didn't have the goods for that. Hang with people who speak, truth and strength into your life. Don't sit around talking with people who have nothing good to say about anything. It doesn't, and I've worked with people like it. Doesn't matter what you say, they'll find the negative side of it. You can't afford to be around those people. They will suck out your life because they don't have the strength or whatever it is to rise up and own the space that God has given them. And so they have no problem kicking the chair from underneath you as you try to stand up in your world. And you can't afford to be around them. It's just too costly. So back to the question, how do you get to that point? Get some people in your life to care about you. Ask some people, what do you mean? You'll get a different perspective. You might surprise yourself what you mean to people. Okay. And then watch your self-talk. What do you say to you? Okay. And just the Bible talks about taking thoughts captive. When some negative stuff starts to bubble up, just stop it. Just stop it.
And that's a good message for young people, especially teenagers, because they get so much negative not self-talk, but negative talk with people, bullying them and tearing them down. Mm-hmm. and they get to feeling that they don't have any self-esteem, they don't have any self-worth, and because they are comparing themselves. And that's one thing, even as we adults, and I really like what you said, because that self-talk is extremely important. We have a tendency sometimes, and me, I can say I have, to say things, if I do something wrong, oh, I'm so stupid. Oh, and when you say stuff like that, you even at that moment, that goes in here,
Yep. That's
and
right.
so you really have to really hold on to positive self-talk and not compare yourself to other people just because they can do that. That's not, maybe that's not your lane.
There you go. There you go. There you go.
And we have that tendency too, to compare ourselves with others.
Yes.
Like
one of the best quote I think I ever heard came from Quincy Jones. Quincy said, "Not 1 ounce of my self-worth depends on your acceptance of me." I absolutely love that. You know what? Love me or hate me, I'm still great. I may not be the great uh, that you want me to be, but I'm great, and my value, how I appreciate me, depends not on any of your opinion. Say what you want to say. I know where I am, and you have to hold on that. Now, being realistic, you may have to say that more times than you realize you have to say it, because you've been doing a whole lot of self-talking, so you've cut the grooves pretty deep.
Yeah.
And you're going to have to stand back up again, because you beat yourself up pretty good. I see another question.
Yes, well, that was a comment. She said, "Watch your self-talk. Preach." I like it.
Thank you, Sandy.
And she said it again. "Watch your self-talk. Love it."
Yes.
And then she says, "Oh, Sandy is really in here." She says, "I like your energy."
God bless you, Sandy. Checks in the mail.
But what you say is just so true. It's so true about that self-talk, because I was at a conference over the weekend, and he had us stand up and shout, "I'm a winner. I'm a winner.
Yep.
I can do great things. I can do great things." And and like you said, you have to keep that
You really
in
do.
you, even when things don't work out like you think they should, and maybe that's because they shouldn't. You know what I mean?
Yeah, I know exactly what you mean.
And so yeah. So when are you gonna speak in Chicago?
When somebody invites me. So I'm telling you right now, I'd love to. I lived in Joliet for 30 years, and my wife is from Joliet, so we would love to have a trip back to Chicago. And I speak to anybody for any reasons. And if I'm in the area and I'm speaking for a not-for-profit organization, and even if they wanted just a pro bono speech, I would entertain that if I'm in the area.
So I'm going to put in here. See, I've got Connie and you in here, but what I want to do is put in here, how can people reach you if they want you Sandy, I know Sandy is a Toastmaster, and so is Jacqueline. She used to, and this was the winner, you all, of the was it the district?
No, it wasn't. It was a humorous speech contest for the whole area, and then I went down to St. Louis to compete for the 10-state area, and I came in second.
Oh, you all hear that? Oh my goodness! So you definitely, people who are out there, if you want to come and hear Rufus Stephens. Wait a minute, I had to look before I said Thomas. So now, how can they get in contact with you?
Well, the easiest way is to go to my website. It is Raisin the Roof, and it's RAISIN, like the fruit raisin, the roof, and don't get confused. It's a play on my name. RUFE. It's a play on my name. .com. RaisinTheRoof.com. And
Okay, okay. So, how did you come up with the name with raisin instead of
well,
raisin?
well, you know what? Because I was speaking colloquially, I dropped the G. You,
Okay.
you know how
Okay.
we drop the G on a lot of stuff. I'm fixing to, and the rest of the things we say.
Yeah,
It
instant
was
to you're right.
there you go. It was just colloquial. There it is. That's right.
Okay.
RaisingTheRoof.com.
So
It has
so raising
contact
the roof.
information. It has contact information. It has samples of videos of me speaking. It has my clients who've been on there. There's some of their logos, and so it gives you some backdrop of who I am. And I speak nationally, and will speak internationally if the opportunity arises.
So when you come and speak to Chicago, I have a request.
Yes, ma'am.
I want a cake.
Oh, you got the cake. It's a lemon pound cake, and you will become our best friend.
Oh,
And we will be, I don't know, we're going to be traveling a little bit, but the next time I will remember that, I'll give you a call. You live in north, south of Chicago, where?
I live in the south suburbs in
Oh,
Calumet
okay.
City.
Oh, I know Cal City real well. Real.
I know.
Oh, yeah. And so, yeah, no. I will, I'll make you that promise that we'll get one to you.
I'm going to hold you to it.
Oh, yeah. Oh, yeah.
So, Rufus, it was just wonderful having you as a guest again. Oh,
Same
let
here,
me
Jim.
see. Okay, Sandy said something. She said, and I'm reaching out to you, my brother.
Oh, God bless you, Sandy. Appreciate you.
Okay. All
Thank
righty.
you.
All right. It only takes one.
That's right. That's right.
So thank you so much, Rufus
This has been great.
Stevens, for
Thank you. Thank you, Jen.
being a guest on the show. It's been a plum-pleasing pleasure.
Come on, Wes. That's less stuff. Love me some less. Well, thank you so
All
much.
right, you take care.
Thank you all. Good night, y'all.
And you have a beautiful, blessed rest of your evening.
You do as well. Thank you.
All righty. Bye-bye.
Bye now.
Oh, it was a plum-pleasing pleasure to have Rufus Stephens on our show again this evening. And so now, if you want to get in contact with him, you want him to come and speak to you, to your organization, to your school, to corporations, to churches, wherever. Get in contact with Rufus Stephens at raisingtheroof.com. So thank you all for coming in this evening. And I know, I started to say, I hope you got something out of this, but I know that you really got some valuable information and some things to think about in your life. To me, he was very motivational, very inspirational. And if you would like to be on the show, Jacqueline Rogers, if you would like to be on the show, Sandy Ennis with the Dow collection that I know about, please contact me at janfornow125@gmail.com. And that's JAN, the number 4, NOW. What did I say? Comcast? No. At gmail.com. I'm a little discombobulated this evening. For some reason, only because of StreamYard. But anyway, I hope to see all of you again next week on Relationship Matters TV. Because as you know, there are all kinds of relationships and there are all kinds of relationship matters. So I'll see you again next week. Have a beautiful, blessed rest of your evening, morning,